الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسوله الكريم وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي اللهم انفعنا بما علمتنا وعلمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. So continuing on from where we left on Tuesday, so we were talking about the different sources of water that we can use to purify ourselves. So from the rainwater, the spring water, water in the lake, water from the ocean. These are all sources, obviously initially from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and these are all been deemed pure water that we can use to purify ourselves. And then we talked about the different aqsam, the different categories of water in regards to cleanliness and its impurity. So in regard to how clean a water is or how dirty it is for us to, in order for us to use it or not to use it, right? And there were five types of that. The first one was tahirun mutahhirun ghayru makruh. That water which is pure and it purifies and it's not makruh. So that means it's just normal water. Al-ma' al-mutlaq, right? It's just general water that you can use, that we see in our tap. That's normal water, right? Pure water that we can use to purify ourselves, make wudu, make ghusl, etc. Number two was وَطَاهِرٌ مُطَهِّرٌ مَكْرُوهٌ. That water which is pure, it purifies, but it's makruh because maybe a cat or maybe a chicken came and drank from it. So you have a little bit of water in a utensil or a small pond of water, and a cat drank from it or a chicken drink from it, and that water is now makruh water. It's makruh water, and the permissibility and the impermissibility about it, we'll talk about it in a bit, inshallah. And the third category was وَطَاهِرٌ غَيْرُ مُطَهِّرٌ. That water which is pure in its natural state, but it does not purify, meaning you cannot use that water to make wudu or to make ghusl. And that was al-ma' al-musta'mal, water that has been used, right? So it's the definition of al-ma' al-musta'mal, as I said on Tuesday, was that water which is used that you make wudu for a certain ritual, that you're making wudu to pray, you're making wudu to read Quran, you're making wudu to come to the masjid, you're making wudu to go to Umrah or Hajj. So when you make wudu for a certain ritual, then that water that you use becomes ma'al musta'mal, and it doesn't we can't it doesn't affect us nowadays since all of our water goes down the drain. But back in the old days, they would just they would have water, and then that can be used for other things as well. And or you make wudu just for thawab. You make wudu just to refresh your wudu. So that will also be known as al-ma' al-musta'mal, which literally means used water. And the fuqaha, the scholars, and this author also mentions the definition of al-ma' al-musta'mal. Like, what is it? So it's that water, those droplets that come off your limbs as soon as you make wudu. So you're washing your hand or you're washing your face. As soon as the water is detached from your body, automatically it becomes al-ma' al-musta'mal, and you cannot use that water. Number four was ma'un najisun, impure water. So something that we can tell just by hearing its name that impure water we should stay away from. We shouldn't use that water. And impure water, it comes in two sizes or two categories. That whether it's in a small pool or it's a small pond of water or a bathtub perhaps, and you see the najasa, you see the impurity inside that bathtub, right? You see the whether it's urine or dung or feces or what pus, you see the impurity inside of the bathtub, then that becomes impure water. You can see it, it's clear. Another form of it is in stagnant water or in flowing water. The water is flowing, but there's so much impurity in it that you have a big pool. There's so much impurity that you can tell that this is dirty water, this is impure water. So then that will also be known as ma'un najisun, impure water, which we obviously is not permissible to use to make wudu or make ghusl with. And the number five was ma'un mashkukun fi tuhuriyati, means that the water itself in its natural state, it's pure, but to use it will be not permissible. That it's impure to use that water, right? The water it can't purify you. You can't make wudu or ghusl with it, and that is the water of which a mule or a donkey drinks from. So an animal of such a large animal, we don't know where its tongue has been, we don't know where its mouth has been. So if it drank from a utensil, we cannot use that water. So a lot of this doesn't apply to us nowadays time, unless we don't have water and we have cats at home, or we have other animals at home, and a lot of people also keep dogs at home. So and in Islam, the dog is an impure animal. So whatever it touches, whatever it licks, it's gonna be impure. So if you have a dog at home, then then you have to be careful with what kind of water you use and what kind of where that water goes on your body or on your clothes, on your utensils, etc. So those are the 5 categories of water according to cleanliness and according to it being impure. And then there's another. The author mentions other things that you cannot use to make wudu with, right? So besides this water itself, the author says wala yajuzu bimai shajarin wa thamarin. So that water that comes from a tree or that water that comes from fruit, like meaning fruit juice, any kind of juice, you cannot use like orange juice or apple juice or mango juice to make wudu with, right? وَلَوْ خَرَجَ بِنَفْسِهِ مِنَ غَيْرِ عَصْرٍ. Even if the water comes out by itself. So for example, you take a fruit, you blend it, you can't use that juice for wudu. And even if the water comes out by itself, meaning you didn't even blend it, you didn't even touch it, you didn't do anything, but it's just naturally juicy, you can't use that water as well, right? And obviously we wouldn't use that water. But if someone has like a little bit of water and they have fruits, they might want to blend it and then mix it with the water to make it more, so more quantity. So maybe they have a lot of people. So situations like that, just keep in mind that you can't use any form of juice or fruit juice for wudu. And that's the most evident view, on the basis that if you mix fruit juice with water, when the fruit juice it overwhelms or it's overbearing, then you can't use it. But if there's like one pint of orange juice and you have like gallons of water, then that's a different question. That's a different scenario, because the water will be overbearing and more evident in that water, right? In that mixture basically. So then you would be able to use that for wudu. Another thing that you can't use to make wudu is when water loses its natural essence. Meaning you have water, right? It's clear, it's silky, it's smooth, it's very liquidy, right? So it cleans things. If you have oil in your hand, you can use water to clean it. If you have oil in your utensils, you can clean it. If you have dirt, you can clean it with water, right? So its natural essence, when that's gone, then you can't use it for wudu or ghusl, right? And that happens through if you cook, right? So if you cook something, right, bitabkhi, for example, you're making lentils at home, right, dal, and then that water that boils and the after product of that water, if it's so thick and that it loses all its thinness and all its silkiness, then you can't use that water to make wudu or ghusl, right? So yeah.
What about like with soap?
Soap?
Yeah.
Like if you put water in soap?
Yeah, if water and soap mix, is that going to be mutahhir or no?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah. Because but who would put soap in water and then use that water?
No, I mean, so you know how we pour soap in our hands and then we wash with
Yeah, that's fine. And you're just cleaning off because no one makes wudu with soap. If you're washing your hands, yeah.
Stagnant water he's talking about. If the water is stagnant and standing, and they put.
Yeah. So yeah.
This is a flowing water,
Yeah, so we have like tap. It's gonna go away. So soap's gonna go away from your hand anyways before you start your actual wudu, right?
Okay.
Or no,
No, okay. In the scenario of ghusl, it might be more relevant that you might be like, as you're washing yourself, you might already like use the soap and stuff. Would you have to wait for all the soap to be washed away and then you start your ghusl, or could you?
No, yeah. I mean, since it is stagnant water, this is washing away as it's going, as the water's flowing, the soap is washing away. So what we're talking about is only like if you leave soap in water for a long time and it just loses all its thickness, all its thinness, and it becomes like really thick, then you won't be able to use that water, right?
Or any other material.
Yeah, any other. So basically, what I was getting to was if you have a lot of water, like if you have water. So we're talking about water, and there are two things that can mess up the natural state of water. Whether it'll be a solid substance or it's gonna be a liquid substance, right? So soap, solid substance. Lentils, solid substance. The author mentioned some za'fran, so it's just saffron, solid substance. Wafakiha, fruits, solid substance. So if you put fruits in a large body of water, as long as the thinness is not gone, as long as the silkiness is not gone, you can use that water. And typically, if you put like a lot of apples like in a tub of water, it's not gonna turn into like apple juice, right? Unless you blend it, right? So as long as it doesn't turn thick or it doesn't lose that silkiness, then you can use that water for wudu and ghusl, right? For solid substances, right? And he even mentions wawaraqi shajarin, and like tree leaves, right? And like bay leaves or whatever leaf you want to use, mint leaves in your water, that's fine because it's not gonna change the fluidity of the water, right? And there's also a hadith about this from the Prophet ﷺ. And there was a man at Hajj, and while going to Hajj, he fell off his mount. He fell off his animal, and it's Hajj, so people are, stampede, people are going, and he passed away. The animal killed him, right? And then the Prophet ﷺ instructed the Sahaba, radiallahu ta'ala anhum, and he said that اغسلوه بماء وسدر, that give this man, this mayyit, ghusl with water and with sidrin. Sidrin is the leaf of a lotus, so it's tree leaf. So that's also evidence that a proof that you can put you can take a ghusl with those kind of substances that won't change the quality of the water. So if it's a solid substance, then as long as the thickness is still there, as long as the fluidity of the water is still there, you can use it. But when it comes to liquid substances, then you have to look at three characteristics. You have to look at the taste, the smell, and the color, right? So when it comes to liquid substances, some liquid substances or some liquids, they have two characteristics. They have either taste or smell, or color and taste, and some have three. So if you take the example of milk, for example, milk has color and it has taste, but there's no smell to milk. If you smell milk, you don't really smell like a big difference. So if you mix milk with water, then or if you mix anything that has two characteristics, like milk has taste and color. So if you mix milk with water, and only if one characteristic is visible or present, then you cannot use that water. So for example, you mix a gallon of milk with 4 gallons of water, and even if one characteristic comes, right, there's only two. Milk only has two, either taste or color. If one of those two come, then it becomes impermissible to use, right? That's an example of a liquid that has two characteristics. An example of a liquid that has 3 characteristics is like vinegar. Vinegar has taste, vinegar has smell, and vinegar has color, depending on the vinegar you get. So if you mix a gallon of vinegar with like 4 or 5 gallons of water, then as long as there's 2 characteristics still present or visible in the water, meaning whether it's taste or color, or smell or color, or smell or taste, as long as there's 2, that means that you cannot use that, right? So if it's less than 2, if there's only 1, then you can use that water. That means the water is overwhelming and overpowering. Same thing with milk. If you don't taste it or you don't see it, that the water just becomes like water again. That you mix like 1 gallon of milk with like 10 gallons of water, and there's no sight of milk at all, then you can use that water, right? And for purifying for wudu and ghusl, right? So it depends on the thing that's what you're putting in and how much it overpowers the water, or how much the water overpowers that liquid substance, right? But when it comes to solid substances, the only thing you look for is the silkiness and the smoothness. As long as that water is still liquidy, then it's fine. But when it starts becoming thick, and when you boil things and it becomes more thick, then you cannot use that water for wudu and ghusl, and I'm sure none of us would like to use that water as well. And so that's that for that. And then the author says about some things that have no characteristics. There's no taste, no color, no smell. And that is going back to al-ma' al-musta'mal, right? And al musta'mal is what? What does that translate to? Used water. So used water doesn't have any smell or color or taste. It's just water that's been used, right? So that you cannot. It's not impermissible. It's not permissible to use al-ma' al-musta'mal for wudu or for ghusl, right? Whatever's been used, it's gone. But for example, if it mixes, so now if you have a big pot and you put 2 gallons of al-ma' al-musta'mal and 1 gallon of normal water, right? Just pure water, then you can't use that because it's overpowering, right? Al-ma' al-musta'mal is overpowering. But if you have the opposite, where you have 2 gallons of al-ma' al-mutlaq, normal water, and 1 gallon of ma' al-musta'mal, then you can use it, because it's vice versa, right? It's the opposite. The normal water is overpowering. So in that situation, it'll be permissible to use. Alhamdulillah, we don't have these problems. We don't have to go through all of these, but it's just good to know, and then we can carry on. Like this stuff is stuff that relates to back in the olden days. But inshallah, as we go, we'll start more relatable things, inshallah, for all of us. And so the next few chapters, it talks about basically cleaning utensils and clothing with different kinds of waters, which we don't really have to. It doesn't relate to us nowadays because we have washer and dryers, and we have dishwashers, and we wash our own dishes. So it won't apply to us. So then I will skip that one, inshallah. The next one also talks about wells and how to clean a well. If an animal falls in a well, what kind of an animal? Was the animal dead? If a human falls in the well, was a human dead? So stuff like that. How to clean a well, how to use the water from a well in a permissible way. Talks about all that stuff, but I'm gonna skip that as well, inshallah, because we don't have any wells in America, probably. I don't know, but it's not gonna apply to us, so there's no point of going over this again. But the next chapter that we will be doing, inshallah, will be on istinja, so that will apply to us inshallah, and hopefully everyone's already using that. And inshallah, we'll go over that, and we can revise whatever we know, inshallah. So we'll stop it at that. And next Tuesday, we'll start doing.
Can you just clarify one thing, because maybe it's relevant for people who are like on the road or traveling, and they need to make wudu. They don't have like adequate sources of water, so they in nature they find like rivers and streams, and what's the permissibility about using the natural sources in nature?
So if it's like a river or stream, that's flowing water.
Sometimes like it's questionable, in the States, where the rivers and streams might be contaminated by external source.
I mean, if you think like if they have those like fences around and they have like like do not enter signs, then you know not to use that water. You might end up
the
dying.
stagnancy of it, like as in if this river is not flowing in a fast method, then even if the water still looks clean, we should not use it.
No, if it looks clean, like if you're doubtful about that water, so then I guess it'll fall under ma'an mashkukun, doubtful water. So when you have doubtful water and you have no other clean water, then you'll make wudu with that water, and you'll make tayammum and then pray.
Okay.
Right? Because like you'll make tayammum just to be sure that
tayammum is using the earth.
Yeah, earth.
So it's like hands, arms, face, and feet.
Yeah.
Okay. But you do both.
Yeah, you do both. If you're doubtful,
water.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, but usually if it's stagnant water and if you see it's clean, and but if you see impurity like in the water, let it pass by and see if it goes away, and then if it's not,
so it's just like intuition if you have. Like,
yeah.
But tayammum is only useful in methods where you have no water.
Yeah, when you don't have any water, but when it comes to ma'an mashkukun, like doubtful water,
then
you'll make tayammum with making wudu with that water.
And then
but if you don't have any water at all, then tayammum will come.
permissible.
And we'll talk about tayammum inshallah. It's gonna come.
Okay.
Inshallah,
How about boiling the water?
Boiling water?
No, like he saw it, he just gets a little bit.
Oh, as
he
in
boils
purifying the water.
Yeah. I mean, if you have the utensils to boil water, then you can boil water, but then you have to let it cool down.
Purified water because it's been boiled.
I think so. Yeah, you can.
Yeah, it should. Yeah,
because we know like the bacteria. Or
yeah.
Okay.
Carry bottle, gallon of water with you.
Sometimes I'm in nature. Sometimes I have zero water. So it's good to
depends where you are and stuff. Yeah, of course. Yeah, inshallah.
That's good. This is nice. This is good information.
Which is